Now we all know how God of War Ragnarok ended at this point. Odin was defeated, Asgard fallen, and the 9 realms were led to salvation. But what if everything didn't go as planned, as the legendary Grower prophesized? What if Odin won? What if he killed more than just Brock on that fateful day, successfully defeating Kratos, Freya, and all of their allies, and kidnapping Atreus, turning him into a soldier of Asgard? This question shall be answered today. Welcome to Rewriting Ragnarok Part 11, the 11th installment of an ongoing God of War Ragnarok rewrite series where I alter both the story and the gameplay into the absolute what-if scenario. Now I know that this video took forever to get here, and I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry. So for those who are either not familiar or has forgotten what has happened in the story so far, there's a 10-part series on the channel, link in the description. But if you don't want to sit through that 4-hour-long yapping session, don't worry. I got a small recap coming to you right now. So God of War Fimbulwinter was mostly the same. Kratos gets attacked by Freya, Fenrir dies, Atreus turns into a bear, they go home and see a black wolf. Oh wait, that's different. Thor and Odin pull up to cause commotion. Atreus and Kratos go to see Tyr. Tyr's a pussy. They go to Alfheim to find Girl's prophecy. Kratos yells at Atreus, causing him to leave to go find Freya, but instead, he finds that black wolf once again, who transforms into Vala, God of Vengeance, who beats the living shit out of Atreus, causing him to run. Atreus manages to barely escape, and Kratos finds him and yells at him again, but their quarrel this time will be interrupted by a grieving Freya, who knocks Atreus out and kidnaps him, causing Kratos to chase her all the way to Vanaheim. Kratos kills a Valkyrie in Vanaheim and rips the wings off, using him for himself to perform air combos. Yes, you heard that right, air combos. He then finds Freya, fights her, and kills her. Yes, Kratos kills Freya. Freya dies. I'm sorry. Kratos and Atreus argue for the last time before Loki crashes out and decides to go to Asgard. Kratos tries to chase him but is interrupted by Vala, the God of Vengeance, who has a special ability that Kratos cannot deal with, so he is forced to go home and ask for the Draupnir spear. Yes, Heimdall is still alive. Loki goes to Asgard to meet Skildir, Heimdall, Thrud, in the rest of the Norse pantheon. There's a lot more gods now. Odin tells Loki to go with Thor to find a piece of a mask, and Loki is traumatized by the violence of Thor, which causes him to go to sleep in his new room, transporting him to Ironwood. I'm sorry, it's still in the game. Loki meets Angrboda, who has a prophecy to show him, but it was stolen by another giant, so they have to go on a short journey to go retrieve it. When they do so, they meet a little girl who turns out to be Ran, who joins them on this trip. They find a devastating prophecy and a giant, and all 3 of them have to fight him, and Ran has to sacrifice herself in order to defeat him. And also, Angrboda's grandma, while Kratos kills a Kraken with his newly acquired Draupnir spear, Loki is in Asgard fucking shit up, freeing Garm, and he gets bullied for it all the way back home to his father. Kratos and Atreus go on animal control to hunt down the dog and turn him into Fenrir, strengthening the relationship. But then they go home to find Freyr, who comes to them and says, "Hey man, I wouldn't ask for your help right now, but my sister is alive." Yes, I lied, as I have from the very beginning. Kratos returns to Vanaheim to squash the beef with Freya and kill Nidhogg. They all team up to retrieve the moon from Odin's army, but on the way there, they are interrupted by Vala, God of Vengeance. Kratos kills him. And then they go on to retrieve the moon, which turns out to be a person, Mani, who doesn't like or wants to cooperate with them at all, which forces Atreus to return to Asgard. Loki convinces a drunk Thor to go and complete the mask right before stealing it back to his home. Tyr finally attempts to be useful, but Brock is seeing through it, so Tyr just goes like, "Fuck it, I'm Odin now," and kills Brock. Kratos destroys the mask, successfully pissing the Allfather off and causing him to summon the wrath of Asgard onto Kratos and all of his friends. Kratos and Thor squabble for the second time, teleporting from realm to realm all the way until they end up in Midgard, which Atreus will try to interrupt the fight and gets knocked out by Thor, which is the #1 thing you don't want to do. God of War Greek Kratos appears on the screen and torches Thor's fat body from the inside before getting jumped by the rest of the Aesir and defeated. Thor landing the final blow, turning Kratos' body into a pool of blood. Atreus immediately tries to get revenge by summoning Jormungandr and Fenrir. Jormungandr gets decapitated and Fenrir gets kidnapped along with Atreus. Loki tries to be sneaky in Asgard but is instantly caught by Heimdall, who attempts to murder him. Loki is then saved and transported to Helheim by a friend he met along the way, Ran. He then travels upon the cold winds, with his only memory being blood upon the snow. Now, if that recap sounded kind of goofy, I understand. But if you want to figure out all of the missing context, the link to all 10 parts will be in the description. Now, on to part 11. Now, we should clearly know at this point that my first major change that I made on this rewrite was turning the Norse Saga into 3 games instead of 2. Mainly so we can have more time and content with these characters. But now, we're on the 3rd and final game. And I gotta make another very jarring change. Now, hear me out on this one. In this version of Ragnarok, Kratos and Loki will both have their own separate playthroughs. Yes, I'm copying off of Sonic Adventure 2, yes. Now, this change may seem a little out there for a God of War game, but I believe for this rewrite it would make the most sense, because based off of the direction of the story, Kratos and Loki will be separated for a nice chunk of the game. And people hate playing as Loki already, so I don't want to force them to play as Loki for 3 hours at a time. So why not give them the option to skip it entirely and play completely as the God of War? This will also allow to have 2 different perspectives of the similar story, and also having specific side characters to be more relevant in one playthrough than another. By the way, this wasn't even my idea. This was somebody in the comment section. I forgot who it was. So don't even blame me. I am aware that this will be a long haul compared to the emotional and grounded father and son story that we all fell in love with in the first place. But I can assure you that the integrity of God of War as a whole will still be present in the rewrite. And I'm gonna have some fun with this one. And I hope you guys do too. So without further ado, I've been talking for way too long now. Let us begin. The land of Svartalfheim is not used to being in such conditions. The night is dark, the stars are bright, and it is cold. A lonely boat sails the calm seas of the land, seeming to be almost endless. Loki sits at the tail end of the boat, sharpening his arrows. Next to him sits a long wooden engraved staff. The champion will be accompanied by others, one of them having blonde hair and a goatee. The man nervously says, "I've never been here before." No one responds, and Loki continues to sharpen his arrows. "Who did you say lives here again? The dwarves?" Yeah, I believe that's what you said. "Well, I hope we..." "Skilder, I don't enjoy listening to you. Your voice reeks of cowardice," says the man sitting right across from Skilder. "Sorry, I'm just trying to keep my mind sharp. I don't plan on dying today." "Why does that matter? You are under Odin now, so you can't die. You'll just become an Einingjar, which is a greater privilege than... What are you? A peasant?" "Yeah, well, you'll have to excuse me. I have beautiful golden locks and I don't want to lose them." Moments of silence pass before Skilder fails to resist to speak again. "We've been on this chase since Fimbulwinter ended. All we've had was close calls and losing the numbers that were barely here. Hell, Odin doesn't even help us do his dirty work." "I'd advise you to not disrespect him. This is merely a chance for you to prove yourself." "Oh, don't get me wrong, I'm forever grateful. But if that's the case, this feels like our last chance." Loki finally looks up from his arrows and notices the island of destination in the distance. His gaze up caught the attention of both of his companions, and he looks at both of them in an almost disappointing manner, and he says, "You should have dressed warmer." Grabbing onto this strange staff, he walks up to the other edge of the boat to analyze the island. He tells the group that they are here, and they prepare their arms. The champion decides to strike first, setting off the inevitable battle. Raising his wooden staff with his left arm, he pulls against the space near it with his right. This slowly bends the staff, while forming a string gripped by his right hand. A bow and arrow is naturally formed, engulfed with golden ore. He shoots the arrow like a dart in the sky, and it disappears in the night, only to cause an explosion on the island. Loki yells out, "Bela!" and the boat rushes to shore like a speedboat all on its own. The land ahead didn't take kindly to that explosion and begins to fight back as molten lava rocks are tossed in masses towards the group. Luckily, none are hit, but Skilder still raises his shield. He yells out, "So what's the plan?" Loki responds by saying, "Don't get hit," and without interruption, he transforms into a reddish barn owl. He takes off in the night sky, exceeding the speed of the boat, avoiding most of the molten hazards. But unfortunately, he gets hit right before landing onto shore. The impact from the lava causes the bird to spin out of control. Hot embers burn away at his wings. Another molten rock hits Loki again, slamming down into the shore and reverting him back to his human form. His back is covered in hot embers. He tries to transform again, but he is unable to. Hitting the ground both in pain and frustration, he gets up to see what seems to be an abandoned dwarven refinery, which looks like it hasn't been used in decades. But this won't be the case, as Loki sets his sight on dwarves. But not just any. These dwarves are Draugr. They're shorter in stature and will retain a combination of both Draugr and dwarf-like characteristics. The camera moves behind Loki in typical gameplay fashion, and you'll be forced to pick up the PS6 controller. And this is where the gameplay shall commence. Remnants of the Dwarven Resistance, the first new enemy type in the game. They will rush you wielding a number of blacksmith tools, starting off with a typical hammer in one hand. Once they're within striking distance, they can do a basic looping smack from the bottom up. They can also perform the same attack in reverse from the top down. You play as Loki, however, and all of his movement options will be pretty much the same as the original, except for a couple of minor changes. Pressing circle while idle will perform a short hop, and pressing circle while running will perform a short leap, which means that circle will no longer be used to pick up healing stones, and it will be replaced with R3. And if you wish to lock onto any enemy, you'll simply have to aim with L2, then press R3. Loki's basic light attack chain will be the same, pretty much unchanged. His heavy attack chain will also be unchanged. But despite the familiarity of the combat, there will be one more change. Usually, L1 would be the button you press to block, but this time, you will not have no shield, since the magical shield that was created by Sindri has been broken some time ago. Pressing L1 will have Loki hold his bow in front of him, successfully blocking the attack, but breaking your guard in the process, meaning that the only current viable option of defense is to dodge. You'll have to face off against at least 8 dwarves, until even more show up. Both of your companions jump from boat to shore to fight alongside you.
So, when did the dwarves start looking like that?
Skilder says.
Since now, I'll cover you.
Atreus responds. Skilder comes in with a sword and large round shield that he barely lets go of. The other guy holds a spear. The three of you will swiftly dispatch the undead dwarven forces. Ahead of them lies the gate of the dwarven factory. The entrance will already be open for them, the only thing in their path being broken wood from the gate. You vault over it using circle. Loki and the other two enter an open space surrounded by mostly dark wooden structure. Around you, you can see barrels, chairs, tables, as if the area was used to dine. And you can also see various anvils scattered around. Loot such as hacksilver will be available around the ground to pick up. In front of them lies another entrance leading deep into the factory, but the door is shut. Suddenly, a strong cold wind starts to pick up as if there was a blizzard, extremely unusual for the realm of the dwarves. At least we know he's here this time. He must feel very brave to give off his location. No, he's not, Loki says as he looks up to see a level above the door with a lever on top of the balcony. Loki tells them to be ready as he looks for a way up. As a player, you'll have to look around until you see a wooden structure with a small wooden cube sticking out of it. Press circle to have Atreus grab onto it. Use the analog stick to guide him up the structure by climbing onto various cubes in different directions. He soon enough reaches the second floor, only to be attacked by another dwarf. The dwarf lunges at him, but Loki is quick, blocking the dwarf's assault with his bow and swiftly tossing him off the platform. On top will be a few more dwarves to fight, but some come at you with burning chisels instead of a hammer. These chiseled dwarves will just try to stab you a couple of times, nothing special. You'll have opportunities here to ledge enemies if you successfully knock them back in a direction with no floor. Once disposing the enemies, you'll notice you'll have to jump to the balcony where the lever is placed. This jump will not be automated. To complete this jump, you'll simply have to press circle while sprinting with the analog stick. When reaching the lever, press circle to turn it and watch below as the door opens for your crew members. More dwarves will await them from behind the door. Death from above is reintroduced right at this moment, as the balcony provides an open edge for you to jump down. Loki's slamming animation is unchanged, but the first time you do it triggers a short animation where he slams on top of a poor dwarf. The dwarf struggles against Loki's bow, trying to grab and claw at him. Loki pulls out an arrow and uses his own hand to ram it inside the dwarven skull. He takes the bow out of his head and places it on his bow, aiming it to shoot at a dwarf that was running straight towards him already. It's momentarily stunned after an arrow is shot through his chest, but you'll notice a small bright pinkish glow emitting from where the dwarf was shot. The triangle button appears next to him. Pressing it will have Loki reach out and pull the arrow from his chest. This technique does damage while pulling out and also does small bleed damage to the opponent, which lasts for about 6 seconds. You can now shoot any enemy and pull out the arrow at any time while being close up to them. You can apply this to multiple enemies at once, but you can only apply this effect once per enemy. In the area you battle in, more wooden structures stand long on each side of you, forming a linear path. More anvils will be placed ahead, and dwarves with a slightly altered design will suddenly appear behind them. They wield a hammer in one hand and blacksmith tongs in the other. The tongs will be holding molten hot metal, which the dwarves will set against the anvil and hit with the hammer, causing molten lava to come shooting at you. Ranged dwarves, however, can only shoot at you if they are behind an anvil. If you're able to evade getting hit while closing the distance, you can knock the dwarves away from the anvil, negating their abilities. Once away from their anvil, they become regular enemies, but be warned, any type of dwarf can go to the anvil and become a ranged type. The group fights their way through a narrow pathway formed by construction. Eventually, the linear path makes a right turn that leads to a dead end. A chain hanging down will be their only escape, climbing up to the roof level of the construction. On this level, you'll get a decent view of the dwarven refinery. You can see many tall mining rigs in the distance begin to catch ablaze among the cold wind that's turning into frost. It appears that Loki and his friends have woken up the entire dead. Loki assesses the situation, almost hesitant to move. The group notices danger ahead and below. Skilder says, "Oh no, that's a lot of them." They suddenly hear to the left of them more dwarves spawn on another roof, which is connected to theirs by a bridge. The bridge looks weak and flimsy, but that doesn't stop the other companion from yelling and charging at them. Loki, noticing the state of the bridge, yells out to him, telling him to stop, but it is too late. The companion falls through one of the wooden platforms, holding on for dear life as Loki runs after him. The bridge collapses, with both of them on it. The fall is rough enough to send both of them tumbling in different areas, separated from each other by broken wooden walls. Loki roughly rises to his feet, dust and wood falling off of his body. Finding himself in another, very narrow space between broken wood, he can almost touch both of the walls at once. Loki looks over to ask if the other dude is good, which the man replies that it's gonna have to take more than that. Skilder yells from above at the man, telling him to stop being a damn idiot, and the man replies calling him a coward. Loki tells both of them to get it together, and also tells Skilder to avoid many enemies as he can until he's reunited with the group. Right on cue, an undead dwarf emerges from the ground. Not too far behind it, a ranged dwarf emerges who is beginning to shoot at Loki at almost the same time the close one is striking. The game slows down and pauses as a button prompt appears telling you to double tap L1. Now, Loki does not have a shield, so he cannot shield strike. So what exactly will double tapping L1 do? Grabs. Double tap L1 to have Loki grab the dwarf and put it in a hostage style chokehold with his bow. While holding an enemy, you can use them as cover, blocking that incoming molten filth coming from that ranged dwarf. The one you grab will of course take damage instead of you, and they'll even take elemental damage depending on the attack. After defending the attack, you'll be next to a wall. You can press R1 to have Loki forcefully smash his head against the wall. When you're not near a wall, however, Loki will have two options from his grab position. Pressing R1 will have him spin the enemy around from the neck and throw them in any direction. Throwing them onto another enemy will of course cause damage to them. Pressing R2 will have you swing the enemy and slam him onto the ground instead, allowing you to juggle. Tossing enemies onto others is also an easy way to build up stun. And speaking of stun, this is where new executions will also be introduced. Press R3 on an enemy to either strike them with the bow, making them fall over to the ground, and then striking them in the head twice with the bow in quick and violent fashion, with so much force that the enemy's head will split open and spew blood or any other elemental fluids. He'll perform one final swing while charging his bow with magic to ultimately turn their heads into a watermelon. Or you can execute them in a more civilized manner by having Loki throw one of his kicks at them, causing them to turn and stumble. He then pulls out his knife to swiftly stab the opponent in the eye, and then stabbing him again with the other hand using an arrow. He'll finally yank both out at the same time and watch the victim fall. Skilder would have found his way down to you by the time you've reached out of the narrow space. Now being on the lower levels of the factory, more dwarves arrive to take you out. Multiple anvils are scattered around for the dwarves to use. Take them out with your group as usual, but as you continue, you'll become slower and weaker. The blizzard has picked up to an almost unbearable intensity. If the group continues their pursuit, they'll get frost buildup and your health bar will eventually go down. Curse you and your filthy magic, the companion yells out to the ever-growing blizzard.
Definitely starting to feel like Midgard,
Skilder says as he tries to shield himself from the cold. Loki tugs away at both of them to get them to follow them into a nearby broken wall, which is tall and very thick enough to handle the violent winds of the blizzard. The frost begins to leave their bodies.
How are we supposed to get past this?
Loki takes a slight peek from the wall and says,
There's more cover ahead, follow me.
The gameplay resumes, and you'll have to navigate your way through the storm by reaching other nearby covers before you are completely submerged in frost buildup. You'll reach a third wall which will be slightly wider than the others, and dwarves shall await you there. As you fight them, throwing or knocking away a dwarf into a blizzard will cause them to slow down. They'll take frost damage, and those with low health will be rained out. After reaching the fourth wall, you'll notice that there is no more cover ahead, but a lot more blizzard to get through. However, you'll see a lever next to you and a large wooden conveyor belt right outside from the wall. Press circle to pull the lever, which makes the conveyor belt move several meters. Hanging high above the conveyor belt is a large wooden shipping crate. If you are able to drop it onto the belt, you can create some mobile cover. Loki, however, cannot shoot what's holding the box from his current position. You'll have to grapple onto the bottom of the cargo. Frost effects return to you as you make haste to climb your way to the safe side. You'll make your way to the safe side and up to the top. Loki cuts the rope holding the box with his knife, causing it to fall, then safely jumps to the cover side of the box on top of the belt. Skilder runs towards him, and the other companion pulls the lever and quickly follows. As they pursue forward, the frosty winds will reveal a dark wide hole behind the fall, an entrance to a cave. They all run and push through the slowness of the frost effects, jumping into the entrance of the cave. But instead of finding a surface to land on, they fall into the depths. Luckily for them, the fall isn't deep, and the platform they land on is small in space. They rise to take a look at their new surroundings. Using their own light, they gaze upon many bridges, all on different levels, leading to different tunnels. From where they stand, they have nowhere to go, but above them lies a bridge hanging from the ground above in the upward slope. You can shoot where it's hanging from to have the bridge fall onto the platform you're on, allowing you to move forward. After crossing the loose bridge very carefully, you'll run into another obstacle. One more gap stands between you and the next cliff, which seems to lead to the exit of the cave. This time Loki will have to platform on his own. A rope will be connected between the two cliffs, which you'll be the only one able to climb. As you're climbing the rope, ranged dwarves will appear and try to shoot you off from a distance. Press circle to have Loki hang off the rope upside down, aiming towards them with his bow. R1 or R2 will get the job done, and you'll press circle again to continue climbing. Loki ponders on how much easier this would be if he could just transform back into an owl, but the injuries he sustained on his back is stopping him from transforming. He also thinks about how much easier this would be if someone else had a bow. Once on the other side, you'll have to do some rock climbing in order to reach a higher level with more bridges. Shoot the other side of the bridge to have it hang down near the previous level, allowing the rest of the group to swing off the ropes of the hanging bridge to the other side. Before you shoot it, however, you can cross the bridge to potentially find some loot. You climb down to rejoin the group, and you all walk up an upward path leading to the exit of the cave. The blizzard from the opening has yet to let up. In fact, it's gotten even stronger. Skilder says, "Welp, guess it's time to head on home." Foolishness, Skilder. Even if we wish to turn back, the blizzard surrounds us. Skilder turns to Loki. "Any ideas?" Loki takes his bow and drags his hand across the string, making it dissolve into yellow particles. The bow magically unbends itself back into its original staff form. He then says, "Stay here. If I can make it to him, I can stop the blizzard. Once that happens, you can follow behind." Both of his companions agree with no retorts and find somewhere to sit on the cave floor. Skilder tells him good luck, and Loki confidently nods his head and turns to the blizzard outside. He holds his staff in front of him and walks out into the storm. Before the cold can even touch him, an unstable heat shield emerges from the end of the staff, forcing the blizzard to pass around him and not through. This protection seems to be a struggle for him as he walks through the blizzard as if there is no protection at all. He perseveres, however, and pursues the unknown, despite not seeing a thing. Slowly but surely, dwarven village huts become vaguely visible. Suddenly, a dwarven draugr grabs Loki from behind, causing him to let go of the spell. The blizzard builds up on them as they struggle and fall to the ground. He escapes his hold and tries to crawl to his staff. The frost slows him down significantly, and the dwarf reappears on top of him, gripping and clawing at his back near where he was hit at. He lets out a yell of pain while still trying to reach for his staff. Right when the situation is appeared to be hopeless, with more dwarves closing in on him, Loki's eyes begins to glow. But instead of transforming, he gets a burst of strength and energy. He turns and tosses the dwarf off of him as if he was a piece of wood. He picks up his staff. His eyes return to normal. He yells out, "Haita!" and slams his staff on the ground. Every snowflake in his general radius becomes still in the air, and the cold wind ceases to exist. Loki readies himself to take on the first dwarf who rushes and tries to grab him. He blocks this with his staff and uses the momentum to slam the dwarf on the ground. The next one gets smacked across the head, attempting to do what the first one did. He spins to the next while pulling out his knife, then stabs the dwarf in the head and pushes it out with his staff. He turns in another direction, sees three coming at him. He raises his staff, it glows blue at the tip, and swipes at their direction. The violent frosty wind follows and blows the three of them out of the warm radius before the area returns to suspended animation. He then drags his hand where the bowstring used to be, turning his staff back into a bow. Pulling out 3 arrows at once, he aims towards more enemies and shoots 3 of them in quick succession. The final dwarf tries to sneak him once again with a hammer, but Loki rolls to evade, sweeps his legs with the bow, spins and jumps in the air to smash his head in. Loki becomes heavily exhausted, having to catch his breath. He tells himself that he has to hurry as the still snow begins to move back into the regular violent speeds. He goes back to navigating with the magic of his staff. You walk through an abandoned dwarven village similar to Nidavellir. Loki falls to one knee in the middle of walking, desperately holding up his protection. In typical fashion, he reassures himself and slowly rises back to his feet and keeps moving forward. Quickly making it to a shore, he spots a large ship among the blizzard. If the storm doesn't end here, it means he's further. I have to get to the ship, Loki tells himself. The wind pushes him back some more, but he resists the temptation to fall to his knees. The ship towers over him when he reaches the shore, and the rope hangs over the tip. Just keep going, Loki tells himself before releasing the magic to climb the rope. The frost buildup hugs his body once again, making him slower and slower. His hands get weaker and weaker until eventually he makes it on top of the ship. Loki tumbles and rolls and then crawls to one of the ship's openings below. Both frost and fire particles cover his body. He drops down without caring for neither how he lands or what he lands on. An old wooden table violently breaks his fall, making a mess and causing Loki pain. He holds his side while clenching his teeth and yells out, "Bela!" The furniture and old belongings slide a little as the ship begins to move. He says to himself, "Okay, no idea where I'm going, but I'll have to catch my breath." Loki focuses on his wounds and uses his godly powers to heal. Noticing the darkness inside the room, he looks for candles to light using magic. He sees a few things once the room is illuminated. Dead dwarfs cover the floor around him, making him feel uneasy. The sight of the corpses are painfully nostalgic. He takes a wooden seat to sit away from the corpses, trying to ease his mind, but the feeling still resides. Deciding to take a look at his equipment, he takes his arrow quivers out and places them on the desk. Then he pulls out his knife and blankly stares at it. It appears to be in a dull, bloody state, even accumulating some rust. The sorry state of the knife reminds him of the condition it was in when he first got it a long time ago. He says to himself, "I was supposed to be," before forcing himself out of that trance, reminding himself to focus and telling himself not to be stupid. The ship suddenly crashes into something and ceases his movement. Loki rises to the ceiling and out of the entrance. He looks around to see that the blizzard is no longer consuming him, but surrounding the area, creating a spiral around him. Over the edge of the ship, a small ring-shaped island with nothing in the middle but water and a single human being. From the distance that Loki stands, It appears that the man is standing over water. Loki yells out to him.
Uller!
Uller allows the sound of the wind to speak for him.
There's nowhere to go!
Uller still doesn't respond. Loki quickly loses his patience and pulls out his bow, but before he can even aim, an arrow zips past his face and pins itself to the wall of the ship. The arrow causes frost buildup. Loki simply sighs and then hops down onto the island.
What's wrong? Nothing else to say?
Loki pulls out a large seed and tosses it in the middle of the water inside the island.
I hope you know, if you don't stop this blizzard now, I will kill you.
Uller shoots out another arrow, which is blocked by the shaft of Loki's bow before it hits the side of his face. Whatever, Loki says right before shooting an arrow back at him, which misses, and Uller retaliates in lightning speed. Loki transforms back into a barn owl to dodge the incoming arrows. Once he's close, he reverts back to his human form to give him a death from above. Frost energy forms under Uller's weird-looking shoes, and he glides across the water, avoiding the blow of Loki, and creating an ice path behind him. Loki turns to see Uller standing in the middle of the ring island, and this is where the gameplay shall resume. This boss battle will begin as a shootout. Uller will shoot arrows at you from afar, and you'll have to do the same. Uller will make himself a moving target by constantly gliding around with his sled-like shoes, going from water to land, leaving ice paths behind. You can walk around the ring of the island and also the ice paths he creates to try to reach him, but he'll simply slide away every time you get close. Loki will call him a coward for this, and tries to bait him by saying you're not fighting like the god whose name you stole. This will not work, however, and he will continue to evade you. If you want to give a beating to this man, you'll have to wait for the very moment that he's about to slide, as his legs will glow with frost energy. Take aim and shoot at his legs to stop and stun him. If he's on land or connected to you by an ice path, you'll be granted an opportunity to throw hands. Each time he'll get knocked back by your blows, but he'll land on his feet, creating an ice platform if he's over water. Uller will start mixing up his shots, beginning to shoot arrows in 2s and even 3s. Getting hit by multiple arrows will cause frost buildup, making Loki slower. When you stun and attack him the 3rd time, a cutscene will emerge where Loki goes for a swing with his bow and Uller clashes with his own. They push each other back and forth as Loki reminds him of his futile efforts, but is slightly annoyed because Uller refuses to respond. A sudden wind from the blizzard gets in between them, blowing them both in opposite sides of the ring island. Loki and Uller regain their footing and run towards the other end of the island to meet each other halfway. While they run parallel to each other, Loki shoots an arrow at him, which Uller jumps in the air to block the arrow with his backside, which is equipped with a shield. While still in the air, he spins back towards Loki, shooting an arrow of his own. Loki slides to evade. They'll meet each other halfway at this point and attempt to hit each other with their bows again. This time, Loki beats him to it, smacking him back to the water. Uller makes an ice platform for himself to recover. He then pulls out a magical ring and dips it in the water, freezing the entire area around them, allowing you to walk around them. This is where the next phase of the fight will begin. Uller's health bar will be visible, and not only does he perform ranged attacks, but also melee. He'll have a slow 3-hit combo with his bow that you'll be able to evade. You'll be able to retaliate, but you'll notice after hitting him a few times, he'll run away backwards using his shield as protection from your melee or arrows. After gaining distance, he'll jump back around and shoot at you. He can use his frost shoes to slide across the ice, which he'll usually use to come at you with a leaping charge attack with his bow. However, he can mix this up by going for a grab attack instead. If you get caught by it, he'll put his bow to the back of your neck and pull your head to the ice, slamming you, then releasing you to smack you with his bow one more time. Grabbing him will not work unless you significantly stun him, which you'll be able to tell by the way he reacts to your attacks. If he starts to become visibly hurt by each of your attacks, then you are able to grab, but perform it quickly because he will break out of it. Uller will also have an alternative combo for this 3-hit attack where he comes at you with a heavy hitting downward slash similar to a traveler. This phase of the fight will last up until you get him down to halfway health, where Uller will go for another leaping attack which Loki will easily counter by catching him and throwing him to the ground. Uller will get up with a bone-like knife and try to stab Loki, which he'll counter again by catching his hand and stabbing him in the chest with his own. Uller will speak for the first time, but it'll be nothing but a yell in pain as Loki angrily says, "You're weak!" Uller's eye color changes as he yells from a slightly glowing green to a simple brown. "You're not one of us, and you'll never will be!" Uller then regains his composure and charges Frost in his ring. His eyes reverts to his original color. The energy blows him away. Landing on his stomach, Loki tries to get up but realizes he can't, as he is frostbitten from the waist down. He curses to himself as he notices the ice around him crack and melt into platforms. Loki begins to panic as his lower body becomes submerged in water. Uller stands over him in a small platform. Unable to swim because of his conditions, Loki begins to sink underwater. Uller uses his ring to turn the water back into ice, burying him. Uller breathes heavily from exhaustion as he looks down to where Loki is drowning. But then, L3 and R3 appear on the screen. Press it to have a Dreki rise from the ice, grabbing Uller with his jaws and taking him in the air before violently smacking him to the ice. He'll of course get up from this, and you'll be granted with the first opportunity to use one of Loki's new transformations. The moveset is basically the same as a regular Dreki. R1 will cause regular snapping bite attacks. R2 will be a grab, causing it to jump in the air and do that one animation. L1 will allow you to spit out water projectiles. And finally, L2 will allow you to perform the spinning tail whip, which will have knockback. You use these abilities until your rage meter is depleted, of course, reverting back to your human form, and you'll have to finish off the rest of Uller's health bar. But he'll have a few more surprises for you. His melee attacks will be imbued with frost, causing buildup on you if he lands. He adds more to his 3-hit combo by slowly coming at you with spin attacks that speed up over time until he trips on the ground and slides. He can charge his shoes up with frost to literally run you over like a bull, and the impact will send you in the air for a moment. Loki during this phase of the fight will comment on the seed that he threw in the water earlier, saying that he doesn't have much time until it serves his purpose. After defeating Uller, he begins to breathe heavily, his legs barely being able to hold him up. Loki says, "I guess that's all you have then. I didn't want this to happen." As Loki says this, he looks down on the ice that vibrates with the intensity of an earthquake. He then says, "But I guess it's too late." Loki transforms back into an owl and flies high up in the sky to evade the enormous tentacle that erupts from the ice. The tentacle slams down at not only Uller, but the entire ice around them, causing water waves to violently smash and cover them. More tentacles come out the water, and you can see the head of a kraken below. The creature moves in such violent force that it sinks the small ring island that they fought in. The kraken travels across the sea, and Loki, still in bird form, follows it. The kraken arrives to the shore of another land, and Loki will fly down and revert back to human form. The kraken will first seem aggressive until Loki speaks to it. The kraken will calm down from his words, listening closely before it takes a hike back into the water. The water from the shore will wash away to reveal the corpse of Uller. The blizzard dies down. In fact, the cold weather ceases entirely. Loki does not react to his death, only looking up at the sky. The sun will slowly reveal itself among dark clouds, strangely only illuminating their area. Loki looks down to see that Uller was holding something in his hand, something very familiar, something that they thought were lost forever. Loki slowly walks up to Uller's body to take from him half of the mask. He examines it in a very timid manner, wondering where it was found and how he got his hands on it. As he looks at it, he suddenly hears an animal. He looks up to see a mysterious dark horse with orange eyes slowly walk up to Uller's body. The horse brings its face to the body as if to examine him, and it snorts from its nostril, sparking a flame at the head of Uller. Soon, the fire spreads, engulfing his entire body. Loki is beyond confused at this sight, but he decides to kill his curiosity and walks away in order to return to his group. He flies back to the dwarven village, only to see Skilder there, holding on to another dead body, the companion that they were with. Loki runs up to them asking what happened. Skilder simply says that a dwarf caught them by surprise, taking his life. Skilder for a moment is visibly demoralized from the death, until Loki says, "We have to bring his body back to Odin, so he can become an Einnyar." "I know." Skilder cuts him off. Loki says, "I'm sorry. I rushed into this. I should have came up with a better plan. Why does this keep happening? Why do people keep dying? We're under Odin's protection, aren't we? But most of my family is gone, and he only revives who he believes is special. Maybe we should have stayed in Midgard. Then everyone would have froze to death." Loki responds, "Things like this happen. Don't let it get to you. Remember, today was a victory, and all we have to do is keep our heads down and follow commands, and we'll be okay." Skilder stares at Loki after saying this, as if he wants to retort, but he decides not to. He sadly gets up. He shakes his head and says, "I'll carry him." and the two head on back home, carrying another corpse. The screen menu of the Bear Path will show half of Kratos' face, which will be covered in blood. From the very moment you choose your difficulty, Kratos will be shocked by electricity. He yells with great pain. Atreus yells out to his father, and you hear him struggle after being grabbed. The camera will turn to the very god that is causing Kratos to suffer. Thor, the god of thunder, notices the desperation and agonizing grief that Atreus displays. He stares at the young god, almost showing empathy, before hearing a weak voice below him, barely being able to say,
"My son."
The weak statement is quickly followed by none other than your father. He says to Thor,
"What are you waiting for?"
Thor turns his attention back to Kratos. He lifts his hammer, and you, as the player, will be forced to hold R2 to have Thor charge up the most outrageous stream of thunder onto his hammer. When you release R2, Thor will let out a scream that echoes through Midgard right before bringing Mjolnir onto Kratos' head. The impact causes a massive shockwave and a white flash to appear on the screen. Kratos is shown falling while unconscious. As he falls, his body passes a couple of familiar points of interest throughout the God of War series, starting off with the bridge tower of Midgard. The camera is closer to Kratos' face as he passes a large hammer in the unrealistic depiction in the statue of Thor. The mist then reveals a dwarven erected statue of Odin. Kratos' body falls past it. The Midgard statue of Tyr emerges from the fog. The fog then appears to grow thicker and darker until nothing is seen at all.
We have been expecting you, Ghost of Sparta.
A great fire reveals the legendary Greek city of Rhodes. Multiple Greek buildings burn below Kratos as he continues to fall closer to the ground. He then hits the stone floor. Rain hits him as he faces upward, washing away some of the blood. A crack of yellow lightning illuminates the area, the sound causing Kratos to abruptly wake up. He looks around to see sandaled feet quickly surround him. The voices around him gasp and speak amongst each other. These men hold spears, bronze shields, helmets with red decor. In his shocked and overwhelmed state, he quick turns to see that he's on the edge of a man-made cliff. Below the cliff lies a sea, and floating above it lies an enormous destroyed statue of Rhodes. Both blue and orange fire can be seen burning from its face. Kratos becomes visibly disturbed and begins to breathe heavily. He yells out,
"No! No! No!"
A voice behind him says,
"Lord Kratos, you have returned."
Another voice responds,
"Where are your wits, Spartan? The Lord is supposed to be gone. This is an imposter. You there, reveal yourself."
Kratos turns back at the Spartans, who raise their shields and point their spears, unsure of who he is. Kratos glances at them with terror in his eyes, right before grabbing his own head in pain, yelling and falling to the ground.
"Atreus! Atreus!"
A Spartan responds,
"Atreus, why do you speak of his name, my lord? Atreus is dead." "Silence! This is nothing more than a broken fool. A trick from the gods." "Then how does he know of that name?"
Suddenly the massive door behind the Spartans begin to open. Some of the Spartans notice and turn around to see a group of Greek soldiers. They wield shields with eagles engraved on them, and their helmets have yellow mohawks. The warriors shout out,
"Spartans! Your lord has fallen. Surrender in the name of Zeus."
The Spartans respond,
"We do not answer to the skies. We answer to war."
The soldiers of Olympus respond,
"So be it. It was only a matter of time before your savage kind gets wiped off of our lands. For the glory of Olympus!"
Both armies prepare for battle and clash, creating a battlefield around Kratos. Kratos remains in his incomprehensible state.
Before long, one of the yellow soldiers manages to get past the Spartans and spots a vulnerable Kratos. He uses his spear to stab him right in the chest. The soldier pushes through, pinning Kratos to the ground. The pain causes Kratos to wake up, and he looks to the side of him. A triangle appears on the screen, and pressing it will have Kratos reach out his hand to call his axe. But nothing happens, and the soldier stabs deeper. Kratos desperately screams out to Faye herself, but still, nothing happens. He searches below his hand to notice a blade of chaos on the floor. He's forced to yield it. He takes the blade of chaos and decapitates the soldier in one clean swipe, then uses it to break free from the spear which impaled him. The god of war rises to his feet and sees another soldier looking towards him in the battlefield. But then, fire engulfs Kratos' arms as the screen begins to turn red. He lets out an infuriating scream before transforming into the Spartan Rage variant, Spartan Frenzy. And this is where the gameplay shall commence. Spartan Frenzy is a Spartan Rage variant that allows Kratos to use his blades to the fullest potential. Pressing R1 will allow you to freely do Rampage of the Furious followed by Cyclone of Chaos with no cooldown. R2 allows you to do Atlas Eruption without the beginning windup. L1 performs Hades Retribution, and L2 performs Tame the Beast. Use your limitless abilities to absolutely obliterate every Greek soldier that opposes you, for there will be many. As you continue to destroy, you'll notice a health bar at the bottom left corner of the screen, but the rage bar will not be seen. The Spartans fight alongside you in surrounding areas, and once you're finished killing the soldiers that are attacking you, you have the gameplay option to aid them in battle. The Spartans will bear witness to your destruction, and once you kill the last soldier, a cutscene will emerge where you grab his corpse by the blades and toss it into the door which they came, breaking a pillar from inside. One of the Spartan soldiers yell out,
My brothers, I no longer hold any doubts. This is the god of war. But how could this be? Lord Kratos had just entered the match with Zeus.
They all hear more Olympian soldiers coming from the door. Kratos is the first one to charge in, screaming in complete madness, and the Spartans instinctually follow. They enter inside the building and the Spartans immediately engage in battle. But Kratos falls back to the ground. The screen reverts to its original color, and Kratos feels immense physical pain. It takes away any thought that this whole ordeal could be an illusion. Feeling his pain, seeing blood everywhere, and for some reason, mauled corpses of soldiers on the ground, convinces Kratos that this is very real, and it makes him even angrier. You'll rise without Spartan Frenzy, and the regular gameplay will commence. Your light attack chain with the Blades of Chaos will be the same as the previous 2 entries of the series. The heavy attack chain is also unchanged, and you'll actually have access to the fully upgraded moveset from the previous game, but the game will only shine light on the R1 and the R2. You'll basically have a fully upgraded Blade of Chaos, but a level 1 everything else. Runic attacks for the blades will already be equipped, with your light runic being Flames of Anguish, and your heavy runic being Meteoric Slam, but there will not be a relic attack at this time. Of course, pressing circle will allow you to hop, but your Valkyrie Wings of Gold have been completely destroyed by Thor, so there will be no more flying or air combos anymore. The first few Greek soldiers that you fight will not have shields, but neither will you, for that was also destroyed once again by Thor. So if you attempt to block any attack, your guard will be broken, leaving you wide open to get hit. Your only defensive options will be to dodge, roll, or display this new version of a parry called the impede attack. This attack will cause Kratos to use his blades to counter any move that's thrown at him with one big swing. The timing of the impede attack will be different from the parry, for instead of pressing L1 right before the attack lands on you, you'll have to synchronize the animation of your attack with the enemies. To break this down even further, let's divide every attack in the game into 3 different categories. The first category being the delayed attacks. These are the attacks with the long ass windups that usually do a lot of damage. An example being a sword swing from the Traveler. In order to counter this with the impede attack, you'll have to hold L1 towards the beginning window of his wind-up animation, causing Kratos to perform a slow, charged swing. Hold L1 until both of the attacks collide with each other to complete the counter. The second category will be normal attacks. These will be the regular speed attacks equivalent to a swing of a Draugr or a swing from Thor. You'll have to hold L1 but let it go after a short moment in order to counter an attack of this timing. And the final category will be super quick attacks. An example being that run up and stab that the Hellwalker does. These, you just parry. The impede attack can be seamlessly mixed in with the regular moveset of the blades, causing alternative animations.
If you perfectly time this parry against the Greek soldiers, Kratos will violently swing his blades towards the attack, which will knock the spears out of their hands, forcing them to pull out a small sword, which will do significantly less damage. If you perform an impede attack while their health is half or below, Kratos will slice their arms clean off, killing them. When you kill an enemy, not only will you gain XP, but green or blue orbs flow from their corpses onto the Blade of Chaos. The orb will surround the blades and Kratos' arms before vanishing. Green orbs regenerate health, and blue orbs regenerate your wounds. Inside the building, there will be an upper level with balconies above, which more soldiers will jump down to you from. Other soldiers will come out with bows and try to shoot at you from the balconies. As you kill them, more and more hostiles drop from the balconies, and they will continue to do so until you willingly go underneath the balcony and press circle. Kratos will use his blade to completely tear down the balcony, killing whoever is on there, and stopping more reinforcements. After killing all of the Greek soldiers, the Spartans will surround the room. Their morale gets a boost as they tell each other to press on. Kratos, however, is very stressed. He shouts at the warriors,
I must leave this place! Where is the sea?
One of the Spartans respond,
We have to continue in this direction, my lord. But why must you leave?
Kratos ignores him. Luckily, you've opened your own path. Due to you demolishing the balconies, you'll have to climb the wall to reach the second level. Up there, you'll reach a narrow hallway with more enemies to fight. On the floor will lie tracks of blood, as if a body was dragged through the halls. Reaching the other end of this hall will reveal a large room. The room will hold chains and gears, and another open balcony which will be completely out of reach. A large gear sits at the end of the room with a lever that operates it. A chain with a hook on the end hangs off the balcony. A platform will be nearby to push onto the chain with the hook. Pull the lever near the gear to make the hook elevate the platform, allowing you to grapple onto the balcony. The next level reveals two doors. You notice the chain attached to the right door leads back to the room you just left, and the left door chain leads to another room, which will have a gear of its own, but the lever will be broken. A chain with a hook attached at the end will lie underneath a gear. You'll need to physically pull onto the latch on the other side of the room in order to move the gear, which opens the left door. The left door will open to reveal some loot, but you could have skipped it entirely and just went straight to the right door to continue the campaign. In order to open it, return to the first room and release the latch holding the platform. You'll see how the chain above the gear is broken. Attach the hook onto the broken chain and pull the lever to activate the gear. To reach back to the doors, climb on top of the platform and use your blades to tear down the balcony, creating a hole that you can grapple onto easier. When you enter the door, you'll reach a dark room. You'll hear screaming from some soldiers and roars from an unknown beast. A window will suddenly break nearby. You'll have to look for the sound, but as you look around the room, there will be more loot to pick up. Once you reach the large broken window, you'll have to jump out of it and down back to ground level. You land in a circular layout with a water fountain placed in the center. 3 tall pillars will surround different ends of the layout. You'll find a few more soldiers ready to attack you. But as you fight the hordes off, you can notice something in the distance. An abnormally large lion with vague stripes around its body, as if it was breeded with a tiger. The lion eats away at the corpse of a Spartan warrior. A few more of his brothers try to avenge the kill, but the lion swipes its paw and knocks all of them off of their feet, mauling them one by one. When both you and the lion are done dealing with your respective opponents, you'll come face to face. The lion, similar to any of Kratos' previous opponents, will try to intimidate him with its size. When it realizes that doesn't work, it will try to attack him with a swipe of its paw. But instead of getting blown away or knocked off balance, Kratos will only be pushed back a measly 2 to 3 meters, with his feet sliding against the pavement, but never leaving it. Kratos continues to stare down the beast. His silent rage could be mistaken for stoicism as you prepare to face off the first boss of the game. The Lioness of Kithera. The lioness opens her mouth to reveal a glowing beam, which will shoot at you in alarming speed. Dodging it will have the projectile hit the ground or wall and cause an unknown elemental hazard. From a distance, the lioness will have a pounce attack, swiping at you with the left paw, quickly followed by the right. If she lands this attack on you, it will push you back. The classic red ring unblockables will be reintroduced in this fight. The only way to defend against them is to dodge. The lioness will come at you with many variations of claw swipes, giving you many opportunities to land your new parry. Landing this impede attack will have Kratos jam his very blade onto whichever limb is attacking him, slicing it across her arm, leaving a noticeable red line. Landing several impede attacks will damage her limbs over time, starting off with a few marks and cuts before quickly getting very bloody. You'll notice her attacks get slower and slower the more you do so. Literal meat chunks eventually start to come off of her body. Bringing the lioness to halfway health will awaken its second phase, regenerating all of the physical damage you dealt so far. The lioness begins to implement more footwork in this phase, becoming more agile. Instead of shooting one projectile out its mouth, she'll shoot 3 consecutively. The 3 pillars surrounding the area she'll use to climb on top in order to either shoot again or perform a lunge attack. She evades more of your attacks by constantly leaping from side to side, only to retaliate with an unblockable bite. Landing this will count as a grab, where she mauls you on the ground before throwing you. Other than that, the remainder of this phase will be the same as the first one. Revert the lioness back to her crippled state and bring her health all the way down to finish the fight. When you do so, R3 will appear on top of her head, but she will try to run away from you. As you try to approach her, you can see her desperately trying to crawl up the nearest pillar. Press R3 to pull her back. You jump on top of her back and tie both of the chains from the blades around her neck as if it was a shoelace. Triangle will appear as a button prompt on the screen. Hold it to have Kratos' chains go from gray to orange to bright yellow as it completely melts the neck of the lioness. Witness the lioness struggle to no avail as it is decapitated from the scorching heat of the chains. Its enormous head falls to the ground. Let go of Triangle to release the rest of his body. This will transition onto a cutscene where Kratos looks around. His tunnel vision for escaping allows him to ignore the bloody mess he just made. Below the panting breath of Kratos, you can hear the ambience of war all around you. He walks past the corpse of the lioness and suddenly feels something sharp pierce his shoulder. A glowing red symbol appears on it. He looks back at the lion. Red light oozes out of its neck stump. Kratos swipes away at the symbol to no avail. The neck of the lioness twitches, causing blood to ooze out. Then out of nowhere, in disgusting fashion, a hand reaches out of the neck stump, followed by an arm, a shoulder, until it transforms into the top half of a woman. The body of the lioness begins to move again and stands the woman up. She points at Kratos and says, "You have been marked, Spartan." Out of nowhere, a pillar breaks to reveal a massive load of enemies to rival a stampede, quickly followed by a large cyclopes. They appear to be abnormally aggressive. The now half female, half lioness leaps onto one of the pillars and then onto another building that surrounds the circular foundation. She creates an abnormal bow and aims it in the air.
"We shall hunt down all of those who threaten Olympus,"
the half-breed says. She shoots a red arrow and the masses of enemies charge you. The gameplay resumes. You'll be able to successfully fight off the horde of enemies, but it'll be very difficult to come out unscathed. You will most likely take a lot of damage in this fight due to the overwhelming numbers. And if you do take damage, you have a 30 to 40% chance to randomly awaken Spartan Frenzy, allowing you to once again completely destroy. As you fight off the horde, the lioness hybrid can be seen above jumping around from building to building. She'll attempt to throw you off by raining arrows at you, which will be revealed by red circles on the ground. The Cyclopes will have the same moveset it does in Valhalla, but its size will be bigger. And in classic fashion, the most optimal way to deal with them is to of course stun the Cyclops to ride on its back and stomp out all of the soldiers. Kratos executes the Cyclopes in an alternate way, using his blades. A red arrow will fly towards Kratos' face, which he will effortlessly dodge. He ragefully stares at the perpetrator, who says, "We are not finished yet, mortal," before running away. To continue, you'll have to go through the pillar which was broken by the enemies, and keep walking until you reach a narrow alley. Towards the end of the alley, you'll see a Spartan effortlessly fighting off a Rhodesian soldier. The Spartan notices you and says,
"My lord, the statue you destroyed blocks our escape. We have to reach the other shore."
You reach the end of the alleyway to meet a small group of Spartans, but suddenly once again, a massive group of enemies come out of nowhere. The Spartans begin to speak amongst each other.
"We're outnumbered! Quickly, my brothers, look behind you!"
They look back to see the narrow alleyway that you came from. Their morale is quickly boosted as they begin to laugh.
"Yes, that's right! For King Leonidas!"
You witness the Spartans back up in formation to the alleyway, luring the massive number of enemies into it. If you choose not to fight in that alleyway alongside your brothers, you'll be aggressively surrounded, getting beat up in almost every direction. Use the alleyway to your advantage by putting every single enemy in front of you and giving you an easier way to stun multiple enemies at once. The most optimal playstyle in this area would be to spam heavy attacks, for the slamming moveset complements the environment and easily knocks enemies off balance. And if an enemy manages to get past or behind you, A Spartan warrior will take care of you. After taking down the army, you'll leave the group of Spartan soldiers. The end of the hallway led to a small area where you'll have to climb a building to reach the rooftop. You'll feast your eyes on a vast area of roads where you can see Spartan and Zeus warriors engaged in battle at various rooftops. You'll have to travel among these roofs, and you can engage in aiding your Spartans fighting more Greek soldiers, but that is optional. You'll press circle numerous times to grapple onto different roofs and towers. Once you grapple onto the final roof, you'll climb up the edge, and right as you do so, Kratos will be shot by another arrow, causing the mark on his shoulder to glow brighter. Kratos is stunned and partially immobilized. The lion-human hybrid reveals herself once again. Kratos yells out,
Artemis, move now, or I will not hold back.
As Kratos speaks, Artemis uses her opportunity to attack, but she is intercepted by none other than the Spartan warriors. A row of soldiers throw their spears at the side of her lioness body. Artemis steps away and shoots at the warriors, blowing them back. They regain their footing, only to fall back in shield formation behind Kratos, who has been released from his immobilization spell. Dark storm clouds lie above the city of Rhodes. It begins to rain heavy upon the city, and yellow thunder strikes the ground frequently. And this is where you'll fight head on against Artemis, goddess of the hunt. As she attacks, Artemis comments on Kratos' appearance, saying that he looks different from before. For her opening attack, she will run at you while shooting arrows, and then swiping you with the lion's claw once she gets close. When attacking her, she'll retaliate with an unblockable swipe, which can knock you down if it hits you. She'll always run away after doing this to gain distance. When at range, she'll have different variations of how she shoots her bow. Single arrow shots, a line of arrows shot from left to right, and a line of arrows shot at the same time. She can use her bow to create a red shockwave, blowing away anyone around her by simply pulling and letting go of the string of her bow. Also being able to use this ability from afar, unleashing red arrows to rain from the sky. While Artemis detests your ambitions to destroy Olympus, she'll mainly try to keep this battle from a distance, though she still holds remnants from the lioness's moveset. When you get your chance in the pocket, you'll have to land your parries in order to hinder her agility. When you deplete her health, she'll run to the very center of the roof. Red aura surrounds her as she charges her bow for a devastating shot. Being hit, especially on higher difficulties, will cause critical damage. She remains stagnant in this position and will be untouchable from where she faces you. Attempting to attack causes damage to yourself. You'll be able to evade, but no matter where you go on the roof, she will track you. Use that to your advantage. Your goal will be to bring Artemis's back to the face of the Spartans, who are still in formation. The Spartans use this opportunity to throw their spears at her backside. This hurts Artemis to the point where she nearly falls before turning back to the warriors. R3 pops over her head as she tries to attack them. Pressing it makes Kratos sprint towards the goddess of the hunt. He jams his blades where her human and lion sides meet. Artemis uses her sheer mass to throw Kratos meters away, but his blades stay attached. She shoots an arrow at him. He rolls out of the way. He raises his arms that are holding the chains. Press L2 and R2 to ignite a spark that travels from the chain onto Artemis and explodes, burning her lioness skin. Kratos then pulls her down and drags her towards him. She struggles as he stabs both blades where he already made a wound before and begins to pull. Continually press circle to watch as Kratos slowly and gruesomely, as if he was the worst surgeon imaginable, separates the top half of Artemis's body from her bottom lioness half. The massive amounts of blood mixes in with the heavy rain. Kratos shows no remorse for what he just done. The Spartans rejoice and cheer for their god of war. The cheers of the Spartans comes to a stop abruptly, prompting Kratos to look back over to the top half of Artemis, but he will see absolutely nothing but a blood trail. Then he hears, "Foul Spartan." When he turns towards the voice, he sees Artemis covered in blood, as if she was born once again. What was once the bottom half of a lioness has been replaced with the legs of a satyr, and her bow has been swapped with an abnormally large sword that burns a violet fire. The blade of Artemis. She continues, "The gods should have let you take your own life on that day. You're nothing but a wounded animal that deserves a slow end." Kratos does not respond, only readies himself. A fellow Spartan within the ranks shout,
We are ready, my lord.
Kratos turns back at them.
This is not your fight. Leave this place.
Artemis raises her sword and tries to attack the Spartans. Kratos attempts to intercept her by swinging his chains, but she jumps and flips over the blades. The Spartan brethren retreat from the area, and the gameplay resumes. The first attack Artemis throws at you will be a repeated spinning attack which you will unfortunately not be able to dodge or parry. The attack sends Kratos flying through a couple of buildings into a whole new area. The next wave of enemies will be waiting for you to get up so they can finish you off. Spartan Rage will be automatically activated for you, but instead of Frenzy, it'll be Spartan Fury, meaning that you'll have to throw hands. Midway through beating up these enemies, your Spartan Rage variant will switch back to Frenzy. Before long, you'll turn back to normal, only getting a chance to return to that state by getting hit. You'll have to fight through the streets of Rhodes until you meet a large building that you will once again climb. You'll enter a large room with more soldiers. Yellow lightning frequently shines from the windows. Eliminate the rest of the soldiers to trigger Artemis bursting through the window. She'll use her satyr agility to run against the wall and leap high in the air for a strike with her blade. This time you'll be able to play the game and dodge. She will display a similar movement to the satyr enemies, combined with the recognizable moveset of the Blade of Artemis, which means she will have the thrust attack, the basic swings, the spinning attacks. Attacking her repeatedly will cause her to flip around and try to counter you. Halfway through this phase, Artemis increases her intensity by adding a couple of unblockable attacks where the Blade of Artemis turns red while doing so. The rest of her attacks are impedable, and multiple successful parries will make her weaker and slower over time. Even her agile satyr flips and hops begin to cease, and she simply runs, walks, and eventually limps. Kratos slashes downward, sending Artemis to the ground and making her lose hold of her blade. She reaches out for it, only to see a blade of chaos stabbed into her hand. Kratos picks up the Artemis blade and thrusts it into her backside, where her human and satyr halves meet. Her voice cracks into silence. Her body twitches into stillness. The mark that was on Kratos' shoulder disapparates. At first, nothing is heard but the rain and thunder, but the noise is soon followed by loud flocks of birds and numerous wild land animals. After processing that he has killed yet another god, the bounds of his rage becomes limitless, and he reaches a breaking point. Every single fiber of muscle on his body begins to pulse, and his veins become disturbingly visible. L3 and R3 appears on the screen. When you press the two buttons at the same time, Kratos will be shield bashed from behind. A stern voice says to him, "I'm afraid you're gonna have to answer for what you've just done." Kratos turns around to see a tall man, fully armored, with a shield and a spear and glowing eyes that can be seen from underneath his helmet. He gazes upon Tyr, the god of war.